So if we can just be, do nothing. Notice whatever is noticed. Open space of noticing. No argument with anything that's appearing. Resting with no one resting, just resting. Resting without anyone resting. No matter what's appearing. Resting with what's appearing. Trying nothing. No trying. Nothing and no one is standing apart from whatever is appearing. An intimacy that does not need to be understood. Zero distance. No need to imagine anything. If an image arises, it arises. We remain as we are. In the open space. Aware space. Nothing needs to be corrected, changed. Thoughts appearing like clouds. Bodily sensations. All is well, as it is. The sensation in the legs, in the belly, the back, the face, the breath. As it is. Whichever way the universe wants to express itself. Through this body-mind. We don't need to know. We don't need to make a narrative about it. We don't need to figure it out. We don't need to complicate it. Nothing is hidden. There is no one to surrender. There's no one to do anything. It's complete intimacy. That has no cause. It's intimate within itself. You are this intimacy. You are not in any image. You're not defined by any thought. You're not defined by any sensation, by any event. This awareness is undefined. Nothing stands apart. No need to try to become somebody else. No need to become anything else. There is no one to become anything else. It's just imagination, an empty imagination. Anything you try will fail. Because it's false. It's based on an imagined someone who is trying. You imagine yourself, but you don't need to. You can just be as you are. You already are as you are. Everything is perfect as it's unfolding as it is. It's just thought that tells you that there is something wrong. thought that you accept. You accept to be defined. Yes. When you leave what is and you go into the thinking. And the imagining that you believe to be the reality of your experience. But you're never going anywhere. You never leave what is, because there isn't a you that stands apart from isness. There's nothing wrong with your body, with what you're feeling, with what's arising. Can you accept that? You keep imagining yourself to be somebody, but you don't need to. It all works fine without your add-on. You can remain transparent as you are to anything and everything that's arising. It doesn't affect the transparency of being that you are. Nothing is happening to you. Like in the dream, you perceiving dream events. Nothing is happening to you. You can feel everything that's arising. It's arising in your complete transparency. Nothing is in the way. All your travails are in your mind as thoughts. You imagine. You imagine you are somebody and become obsessed with that. So nothing you need to do, nothing. Notice whenever you're doing, you're imagining yourself. You're imagining a doer and a deed. If you feel you are doing something, but you stand apart from that feeling, go to it. Go to that feeling that of I am doing something. Don't just stand apart from it. Go there all the way. Go and find that feeling and be it, embrace it, find that feeling of a doer. You will find that when you embrace it, you're just going right through it. Right through it. But you stand apart from your imagination. You stand apart, you create, and you stand apart from your creation. And in standing apart from your creation, you create the impression of a separate creator. But nothing is separate. There is no separate creator. There is no separate creation. So what is this about something that needs to be fixed? Something that needs to be repaired, something that needs to be improved? What is that? What is that? How far apart are you from creation? Are you not that? Are you not creation itself? Any questions? Anything that you want to explore?
So just throw this out there. A couple times you mentioned about feeling in your belly, and for some reason that
Jack, can you speak up just a little bit?
feeling in your belly,
Yes.
and it resonates as follows, which is that I probably don't spend much attention looking at that, and it raises the point that my mind is organized in such a way that it presents the appearance of some kind of stable universe that's relatively painless. And yet, I think if I just sort of shift over to this place, possibly in that realm, that is a little more uneasy, and allow the experience of that it has a greater potential relative to a deeper enlightenment. So that's just what I'm throwing out as a kind of theoretical concept. And I'm not entirely sure what that means or how to go there. Because it really gets to bringing consciousness into that, is the term chakra, that, and just allowing that to be what it's going to be, and just feel it for a while, and just hang out to get off the dime of this perfectly organized universe.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm asking, is there something that I should know or look at as I undertake that exploration? Or is it
Okay.
to be a fruitful path?
Well, there is nothing for you to do and nothing for you to undertake.
Okay.
Anything that you do, anything that you undertake, what is it that does it? It's difficult for the mind to accept that all is done, that there is nothing to do, and that there isn't a doer of deeds. So it's more about noticing how we are moving away from what is. We're moving away into thought, into story, into imagining someone and sort of hiding in that story while everything is being revealed, everything is transparent, but we don't like, we like and we don't like. So we say yes to what we like and we say no to what we don't like. And so rather than remaining as one is, we go into some form of strategies that we have developed over the years, or we develop new strategies, new activities, something new we need to do in order to what? What is it? What is it that you are looking for? So you look at that. What am I looking for? Is something that I don't want. Because in the absence of any resistance, the question of what to do is insignificant, is meaningless. So the question behind it is pointing to something that I am resisting, something that I don't want, or some idea or image that I have about a better place or a better situation or a better experience. And so what's wrong with this one? I don't have an appreciation for what is happening. And so I want to replace it with something else. And this process is endless because I am not getting to the appreciation. I am doing the substitution game. But appreciation is right here, right now, irrespective of what's unfolding. It's not an appreciation of a different experience that will come to me in some distant future or some not so distant future if I adopt a certain strategy. All of this is a form of denial and a form of obscuring the fact that we don't want some things. So first we need to recognize that we are looking for something, and behind that there is something we don't want. We need to recognize this process. And in the recognition of this process, there is the recognition, and the recognition is void of a recognizer. Recognition does not pertain to a subject. It is subjectless. And in that recognition, there is no resistance. Even though we may be recognizing a resistance, upon the recognition, there is no resistance. Because recognition is no resistance. So rather than looking for a way, a method, or rather than imagining a perfect world or an imperfect world, something that we need to do in order to relate with this perfect or imperfect world. Before that, there is some sort of resistance that we are overstepping and overlooking. Because all these are mental activities, and these mental activities, they're a distraction from being as one is. And it's in the being as one is with a complete non-movement, meaning with an interest in just what is as it is, not what is as I would like it to be, that you will find that there is sort of an embrace that's all-inclusive, that is not dividing, it's not dividing you in good and bad, worse and better. And in the body, at the feeling level, is to remain completely available, meaning it already is happening, whatever is happening, which are impressions, bodily impressions. To remain still with it. And rather than stepping back to step forward, although ultimately there is no back and forward, but to recognize your availability, because it's already unfolding. Whatever is unfolding is already unfolding. To recognize it and to see, to notice your argumentation and your resistance. There is an honesty and a sincerity in noticing as you are, noticing yourself as you are. And in this sincerity, there is the silence, there is the wisdom, there is the stillness. We're often trying to wiggle our way in various ways. blaming others, regretting, self-blaming, imagining. Thinking about a strategy. All of that is an add-on, imaginary add-on to what is. And in its essence, what is complete transparency. What is non-conceptual. It is you, life itself, everything, with nothing apart, no bits and pieces, nothing off kilter. And it's one fabric. That has no problems. Can you recognize that? When you say the world, what do you mean by the world? Is it not some sort of imagination? What do you know of the world? What do you know of the world outside of an inner story? What's the world? I am the world. This is the world. But this is not something that's following before and preceding and after. That's thought. It's just a thought that says before and after. But in fact, the world is this. Everything is this. Life is this. Wisdom is this. Stupidity is this. Nonsense is this. Love is this. Clarity is this. There's nothing that is not this.
So when I sit here, I'm conscious.
When I sit here?
I sit there, I listen.
Yes.
There's no resistance. But I laugh. I have to smile and laugh because it's so true. But I am now conscious. I'm thinking to myself, I'm conscious.
You are conscious.
I'm conscious. And I'm conscious, of course, then of you. I'm conscious of all this. But then I think, because the mind is going on there, is that the problem is, I think for a lot of us, is that we get attached to this narrative, to the story. So as I then am this consciousness looking out, I see objects. Yeah. I get entangled in these objects through my senses. And then before I know it, I'm an object myself, going from the desire of formless into form, fully aware the suffering that is attached to the form.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I make this leap, sitting here knowing I am the consciousness itself.
How do I make the leap from I am consciousness?
Because there's no resistance.
Yes. The leap from I am conscious itself to not,
Yeah.
to just stay as you are and not go into the narrative.
Yeah, I guess.
Mhm. Well, first, whatever is happening is happening. Can you recognize that? So you say there is a narrative, and here I am perceiving the world, and then through my senses I perceive objects and forms, and I get drawn by the objects and the forms, and then I'm less conscious of being conscious. Anything that you will try to do to fix a situation is going to be relating to somebody who, once they get the right advice, will become more conscious of being conscious and less subject to their senses. So that whoever is going to benefit from the teaching, that is illusory.
There is really no teacher.
So in the question, there is that character with the begging bowl. And that character with the begging bowl is fiction. And so therefore the begging bowl is fiction. And whatever someone is going to put in that begging bowl, even if it's $1 million, is fiction. So in a way, there is nothing to do, but not only there is nothing to do, there is no one to...
No one doing it.
No one doing it, or no one to whom these words pertain. So sometimes we get dragged by the senses and we follow the goodies and we suffer because the goodies, they don't deliver what you're hoping. And so we don't want to suffer. And because we don't want to suffer, we want to have the solution. The whole thing is a dream happening. So if you're meant to suffer, you need to suffer. But we don't want to suffer. We don't want to be disappointed. But we will get disappointed. When we get disappointed, then we need to be disappointed to be fully disappointed. Yes. Because when you are fully disappointed, you and the disappointment will die into each other. Because what maintains the unhappiness is you standing apart from the disappointment. Because you don't want to be fully disappointed. But when you completely are disappointed, there is a freedom. The senses are there, and sometimes they pull us. No matter what great wisdom you hear, you may see something that will pull you. At that moment, what does it matter? All the wisdom that you heard, all the scriptures that you read. But what you can do is really suffer and not stand apart, not fight it, not stand apart from what is happening within you and to you. We want to be special. We want to stand apart from what's happening. So only the goodies happen to us. And this is how we maintain the separation. This is how we maintain the unhappiness. But when we are living fully what is happening, because it is happening, it's a greater wisdom than having any scriptures. Because it is happening. This is happening, whatever it is. It has no names and no words to it. But we make words and names to it. And we say good and bad. Good and bad for me. It doesn't suit me. But it's happening. And you will find the more it doesn't suit you, the more it's going to happen to you. Because you have to live it if it's happening. You have to live it fully. Because that's how it is. And there is wisdom in noticing how you don't want it. How you're constantly thinking of a better place, a better situation, a better abiding as consciousness, a better thing, you know, a better fix. And that's what divides you. You could be sitting, all is well now, but you have in your mind some places that you would refuse to go if they occur to you. What if they occur to you? What if right now something shifts and you're no longer sitting all is well as peace, as something happens to you? Can you change that? You stand back and you fight and you resist it. But it's not meant for you to resist it. If it's happening, it's meant for you to live it. So you have to live it fully. And in living it fully, we cannot live it in our mind. We have to live it in our all being, in our entire being, our entire body mind, experience it completely in our body. And not just to make some idea about it and we're experiencing the idea of it. We have to feel it in our body. It comes right into our body, the desire, the disappointment, our expectations that are not being met, how it feels. But we don't want to feel that. So we are standing apart. Now, in your experience, if you look at your experience, you're always looking now. This is a good laboratory for your experience. Are you not fully experiencing this experience? Fully? Fully. So don't call it good or bad. Don't call it feeling good as consciousness. That's just an add-on narrative. It's a narrative. In fact, your experience right now has no narrative to it. But you make a narrative. You say, oh, this is good. But then what if the situation changes now? The weather changes here. And then you will say, this is bad. So you are happy and then you're unhappy. But that's just a narrative. The narrative is the happiness and the unhappiness. Because our true nature, meaning this, not about true nature, this is neither happy nor unhappy, which we call peace or we call, doesn't matter. It's well-being because there are no opposites. There is nothing that's arguing. If you look at your experience, you will find that it's complete intimacy, which is right now, right? It's intimacy. But the word intimacy don't make an image of the word intimacy. I'm just using the word intimacy, but I'm speaking about an experience that has no words. That's non-dual. And then we have an image of non-doer. Forget even non-doer. I'm talking about there isn't anything that's fighting anything in our direct experience, because there is nothing apart. There isn't somebody in this experience that is actually liking or disliking it. I like it and I don't like it, you see. So before the add-on, or when there isn't the add-on, which is how it is, how things are add-on free. So how it is, all is well.
I don't think that was a good, because for me, I hang on to certain phrases, certain views, for certain phrases you use. And this thing is just simply very simple. Nothing is apart.
Nothing's apart.
Nothing is apart.
Yes.
So then, I mean, I can go from an experience to another experience in one moment to the next moment. But whatever that experience is, I am not the part. I am that.
Absolutely. There isn't a you. There is just that.
Exactly. It's
just that. You could say that is I, but it's just that. And in that, there isn't anything that's hurting or that's benefiting or non-benefiting. There isn't a good or bad or a better or a worse in that, as that. So there is a noticing of that, a noticing of that which is before the add-on, and then a noticing of that which is with the add-on. With the add-on, we're feeling, wow, that's great. I'm feeling it, or I'm feeling lousy. So when you're feeling great, feel great. When you're feeling lousy, feel lousy. It makes no difference. It don't matter. It don't matter, because feeling great pertains to somebody and feeling lousy pertains to somebody, and this somebody is just an add-on, an imaginary add-on. Your whole personal life is an imaginary add-on. So what's the point of trying to fix the imaginary character of your dreams? It's moot. And the more you experience it, the imaginary character full on, really happy, really miserable, really happy, but all the way, not resisting, you will find that imaginary separate self, that imaginary character, dissolving in the experience.
But there are, I think, steps involved there.
No, when we are feeling good,
No,
we are holding on to it. We're not feeling good, we're arguing with it.
No, but because you can say to somebody that this is, or you can say to yourself, this is not who I am. But yeah, then there's an identity.
Of what you used to say, this is not what I am. Okay, I mean, yes.
There is identity in that.
When you say this is not that I am,
Who I am.
this is not who or what I am, you are coming to realize, if it's not just some kind of words you're repeating, if you're speaking a direct experience, you're recognizing that whatever is appearing is not what you truly are. But at the same time, all what is appearing is not apart from you. Right? It's not apart from you. So you are witnessing what is arising, but also all what is arising is completely intimate to yourself. So if it's negative emotions, you're feeling fear or you're feeling pain, it is not what I am, but at the same time there is the pain and there is the fear. So what do you do with the pain and the fear? You cannot just say, this is not what I am. Yes, of course, this is not what you are. But with the pain and with the fear, if you look, what are you doing? You're resisting it. You're resisting it in your body. You don't want to feel it. So you have to feel it because that's what's happening. You feel it completely. Completely. And when you are happy because somebody said how beautiful you are and how wise you are and, you make me so happy, you can also say that is not what I am. Mostly you will say, oh, that's what I am. But let's say you still have the wisdom of saying that is not what I am. But still you're holding on to this praise, It's like, yeah, something is sticking to you, you see? Just go all the way to it. Just recognize your your pride or whatever, your attachment, how it's feeling. Because even that, we stand apart from it. Even that, we stand apart from it. Because we don't want to die. We want to remain apart from what is happening in what's appearing. You see?
But if you say that which is sticking to you, you're still that. You're talking on add-ons, but then you are still that because nothing is apart from you.
Well, yeah, nothing. Yes, nothing is apart. It's true, but your experience what matters more than the understanding that nothing is apart. If you are speaking from your experience, then you don't need to be here, really. But you have to look at your experience. When you're experiencing something apart, meaning there is a resistance or there is a seeking, you have to be more true to your experience than to your, Advaitic understanding. And if in your experience there is a standing apart, you've got to own that. You have to live that, feel that, experience that fully. That what is happening, so that it consumes you completely, or you consume it completely. It doesn't matter really which way we speak it. So that it's consumed completely, with no parts still standing apart of each other.
When you say everything's intimately, what's the phrase you use? Everything's intimately us, or?
Yeah, everything is in our experience. Our experience is complete intimacy.
Yeah, you say that because everything that I see, perceive, everything is me. It's just my perception. It's not separate from it.
Yes, it
So
has
it's
to be
intimately me.
It has to be your experience. But so when you experience, you're not experiencing anything outside of yourself. If you look at your experience right now, what are you experiencing? What are you experiencing right now?
Perceptions, feelings,
Okay, so you're experiencing a perception. Yes, you're experiencing, for example, this. So it's a perception. And when you look at the perception, where do you look? Where is the perception?
right here.
How far apart from you? You are not apart from the perceptions. When you look at everything you're experiencing, which is, you can't really divide it, but when we're speaking, we're dividing, because the words divide, and we say perception, sensation, we say bottle, we say glasses, we say table, we say tree, but that's not, we don't experience tree, table, grass. We experience intimacy.
Right.
So we're not experiencing green, yellow, brown, purple, and black. No, we're experiencing, it's wordless.
Yes.
Right.
Right. And you said that there's also this, earlier you called it a reference. We reference this other self. And that is like a story that there is a separate.
Yes, there is.
separation from it.
You're right. In our
So
right.
it's a story sort of.
Yes, in our experience is beyond the mind, beyond words. It precedes the mentation. It precedes the add-on. It precedes
The add-on, right.
it precedes the validation. It precedes the narrative, right?
And then we have the add-on, which makes it seem like it's separate.
Right. Say, well, I went to satsang where I experienced the oak tree. So we make a narrative. There is a subject that is in the narrative. In the add-on, there is an observer, a subject, and an object. There is a thought, and I perceive it a thought. In the narrative, there are two, you see.
Yeah.
But,
It's not intimate. The narrative makes it you separate.
yes.
Or the story makes it seem like you're separate.
Absolutely, because in the narrative, there is the external world and the internal self in the narrative,
Right.
and we live in the narrative, meaning we're very interested in the narrative. We're identified with the character in the narrative, and so we're very interested in what's happening next, what's going to happen next to that in the narrative. And because of that interest in the narrative, we are experiencing all the emotions. We experience the emotions. But because in the narrative, we want to maintain the character,
Yeah.
so the character has to sort of surmount the emotions and come out vanquishing. He had to vanquish the emotion. He's got to win the battle, grab the flag, you see. So when the emotion rises, we're trying to surmount the emotion. We're trying to survive the emotion. We don't want to die in the emotion. We want the character to continue, because that's our interest.
You won't continue if you don't have that narrative.
Yes. So we don't want
to dive into it. You won't be there.
Absolutely. If the character dies in the emotion, that emotion is going to dissolve, and so will the character. And that happens. That happens in. Sometimes you have like something way too big for your capacity to manage your emotions. It comes and it just wipes you out. Like it's like a hot fire. It burns you. It burns your resistance. It burns your mind. It burns your body. It just, at that moment, it's a moment of grace, because you realize a freedom. You come upon freedom. If freedom through the fire. It's a grace that sort of helps you, tells you, okay, I'm going to give you a kick in the butt. I'm going to throw you into the fire. It does that for you. You see, it depends, where you are in, often we, even after that, we still, we'll still revive, we give mouth resuscitation to the imaginary self, and we still go on, but something has changed. Mm-hmm. So the when an emotion is arising, it's there for you completely. I mean, it's there in your entire being, your entire body mind. So it's not, there is standing apart from it, is standing apart from yourself. It makes no sense.
But that's what we do.
Huh?
That's what we do.
Yes, we go into, okay, well, what will be the strategy out, you say. Right. So this is in the narrative. We're maintaining the character, you see. We're maintaining the narrative. But that is not what our true potential is, let's say.
So that's why they recommend dive into the emotion, even though you don't want to dive into it as the character trying to fix it.
Yes.
You want to just
trying to
really
survive it. Yes. Die into the fear.
To fix it, you're the narrative.
Yes. You want there is tremendous fear, but I've got to surmount. Oh, the fox! Look at the foxes out there in the back. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Is he regular?
yeah. There are a couple of them that
That's
live
his
out here.
foxhole.
Yes,
Fed well.
yes. It's,
Wow.
yeah, there are a couple of them that live out here. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah. So to maintain the narrative, to maintain the character. So we want to try to figure our way through the rapids. You see, yeah, we don't want to just really die into the rapids, but it's happening. This experience is happening. Whatever it's beyond words. It's just we go to it. So we go to it. You say it's not sufficient to understand and know I am not that. You say, of course I am not that. I am not that. It has to be your experience that truly I am not that. If you are not that, then it's not touching you at all. Then what are we talking about? What sort of fear are we talking about? If absolutely you are not that, then there is no fear. Because the fear would be like, there is a wind there.
Wench?
A wind.
Is it wench? My name.
A wind.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's
Because you're
raining.
looking at your experience, you don't have to analyze it and all that. You just be, basically.
Yes.
But a lot of people have the intellectual understanding, and they think that by saying, would you say, I am not that or whatnot, that's not the real experience of not being that.
Yes.
I'm not really getting it. I get it and then it disappears with
Mhm.
diving in. Because what I have been looking at and observing is the story that I tell myself that causes the emotions. And recognizing it, that it is just a story that is this character here is hooked into.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I recognize it as a story,
Yes.
it's really not me. It's just a story the mind
Right. Yes.
that
So
came from, whatever.
Yeah.
Analyze it,
yes.
know why.
But the story is causing the emotion because it's always about me, which is a fictitious self. So it's a story. You recognize that it's a story.
And then the
If-
emotions just
And the emotions dissolve. So again, if you recognize the complete emptiness of the character, the story, and the emotion just pops like a bubble. It comes up like that.
that to
Then
me is much easier than
then there is nothing we're talking about, really. I mean, there is no emotion that we're talking about.
because it disappears.
Yes. So we're talking about strategies. Now, you're not talking about a strategy, you're talking about seeing the emptiness of the entire, because you have to be watchful that it's not it's not a mental process or a process by which you can you can fix yourself. But yes, if or when an emotion arises and it's immediately perceived that it pertains to nobody, it doesn't have a fuel.
Right.
So the engine starts with tuk, 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 and then it just it goes and then it dies. So good. There's no. We're not going on the roller coaster ride. Yes, of course. There comes a point where that entire add-on narrative has lost its interest. It's no longer really of interest to us. And when it arises, it arose a million times. We're not interested in riding that ride, you see. Yes, absolutely. Sure.
It sounds like you're pointing out perhaps two different types of suffering.
Two different types of suffering.
suffering.
Uh-huh.
So the suffering is self-created, by identifying and creating, sustaining, maintaining a narrative,
Yes.
but also that process is a strategy. That process itself has a strategy for trying to avoid perhaps a more legitimate suffering.
Mhm.
That's not self. We turn into something else and make it worse by trying to avoid it,
Mm-hmm.
rather
Yes.
than just in allowing, experiencing
Yes.
completely, as you mentioned before,
Yes.
some form of suffering. And maybe it's not, maybe suffering is not even the right word, but pain, something we might fear,
Yes.
but we're not allowing ourselves to experience.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and so two different levels of the
Yes.
self-created in order to avoid the primary experience that's habitually avoided.
Yeah. Well, let's see if I resonate with what you said. There is a resistance. There is an unfolding, and then there is something that says no. You say this. I don't want it. I want it to be different. Yes. Of course, it always relates to an I, whatever that I is, which is imagined separate self. But that's what's happening. I'm saying, no, I don't want that. So already there is resistance. But let me just take a step before that, because I know that's not what you were mentioning, but I'd like to mention it now. It's already, as soon as you imagine yourself, because you cannot resist anything without imagining somebody resisting. So first you have to imagine yourself. So already upon imagining yourself, there's already suffering. There's already separation. There's already, a pull out of the wholeness, let's say. Just the initial, the subtle, the subterranean separation. And then that is already on board. That's on deck. It says, I don't want this. I want this to be different. And as soon as it says, I want it to be different, it's spinning. It's spinning, trying to fix itself, fix its feelings. Because as soon as it says, I don't want this to be, I want it to be different, it's feeling, it's in the emotional state. It's unhappy. And it's going to spin to try to fix its emotion. So there is the emotional state. That's step 2. First step is the me. Second step is I'm resisting. So there is the emotional state. Next is the spin. Is the spin to try to find a way out. But there is no way out. There's no way out. And there is a belief that there is a way out. And so there is hope for a way out. And the other side of the coin, on one side it's hope, on the other side is despair, because we know that there is no hope. Whichever way, we're sort of explaining it or sort of outlining the steps of it. It's all just now, whatever's happening right now. It's right now. What's happening right now in your body mind, as your body mind? What is happening right now? You can't separate it within your body mind. You're experiencing what you're experiencing has no words to it. But then the words come and say, I'm experiencing anger, I'm experiencing depression, I'm experiencing whatever we call it. But in fact, we're experiencing, we can maybe better act it out than speak it. We're experiencing something that we don't want to experience. And well, and that's what we're talking about, the negative emotions, resisting the negative emotions because we don't want them. So it's happening. And because it's happening, it's ridiculous to be negating it and to be looking for a way out, because there's no way out. There's no later. You can't be now and later. You're not in time. You're not experiencing anything in time. It's full on right now, full on nowness, you say, right? And so the strategies are all illusory. And so we say, well, just be fully here, experiencing it all, experience it all as it is, but you're already fully here. You're already experiencing it all. And you're imagining that you're not experiencing it all, but you are. And we're just saying, hey, this is what's happening. Just stop imagining a different land, a different experience.
Did you say that the narrator is the one that's resisting to the narrator?
Yeah, but it's all imaginary, because in fact, what is when you look at resistance, okay, let's say that right now you go in your body and make a resistance, okay, I'm resisting, just okay, so there is what's happening. Really, what's happening is just go ahead, like, or clench your fist, okay, so what's happening? There is no words for what's happening.
So you have a narrator about it.
And then there is a narrative about what's happening.
Right.
But in fact, there are no words for what's happening. Because when you go to it, you're not going to it, because you are it. So with something happening, you've got to go to something to say, oh, look what's happening, you see. You have to go to a narrative. You have to go to a narrative to say what's happening.
And then rewrite it.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, the narrative is always the one that comments on it, and then that does something as well that kind of, I don't know what it does.
Nothing. It's empty.
That's just there too. Right?
It's dream.
Okay.
Yeah, because your experience is not an experience of a narrative, right? I mean, your experience is not a narrative experience. Right now, you're not experiencing a narrative. And when you're experiencing a thought, that's a story about your life.
Right.
In fact, you're only experiencing this thought. It's like the snapshot thought. You're not experiencing a story. When we are talking about it, it's like sometimes a story is like a movie that is a bunch of still frames. You have to spin them.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, you're only perceiving this one still frame. Like right now, you're perceiving just this one still frame, and there is a sense of continuity. But the sense of continuity is not because you're remembering what I said 5 minutes ago, because you have no idea what I said 2 minutes ago. You have no idea what you did yesterday. You don't. It's completely absent out of your mind. But you feel that, there is a continuity. You feel that there is a continuity, that there is a continuity. But in fact, you know nothing about what happened 2 minutes ago. Nothing. You don't even know what your right foot was feeling 3 minutes ago. What your big toe was feeling 3 minutes ago. You don't remember. That's true, right?
Yeah.
So what narrative we're talking about? If there's no memory, it's not possible.
So even the narrative is just happening now and then.
There is no narrative. In fact, there is no narrative. There is no narrative. Narrative is no narrative. It's just this. See, it's no narrative. It's just an imagined narrative. You see, the continuity, if you can say continuity, the sense of continuity comes not from the narrative, but from the eternity of consciousness. Or like Shiva likes to say, the timelessness of consciousness, which is never interrupted, Awareness is never interrupted, right? But the feeling in your left toe 2 minutes ago, where is it now? Or the thought that you had 2 minutes ago, where is it now? Right? That's not timeless. That's obviously snapshot. So the narrative, which is an add-on, is an illusory narrative. It's trying so hard to convince you that something is happening to you.
You did a good job of it. That's a pro, right?
But look directly, if you look directly in this moment, what's happening? You could say nothing is happening. You could say everything is happening. Okay. But what's the meaning of saying something is happening or nothing is happening? It's really meaningless, right?
Mhm.
I mean, the whole thing of happening relates to time. But in this moment, like in our experience, I'm not talking about some imaginary thing, in our experience, this moment, our experience is right now. There's no time, right? I mean, there isn't a narrative. There is no time for a narrative because we're not experiencing a second. We're not experiencing 2 seconds right now, right? So we're not actually experiencing time. So we don't know time because we never experience time. In fact. So the narrative relates to time. But because we never experience time, in fact, we never experience the narrative. You follow?
I think so. All just right now. Everything that's happening is happening now.
Yes, everything is happening now, but now is not in time. So it's a timeless. So it's timeless. And I am this, you want to say what? This timeless now? Okay, I am this timeless now. Right, because all this, including me, why should I exclude? I mean, all of it is the timeless now, right? Including this bottle, the whole shebang is this timeless now, and not excluding anything, including Bangladesh, right? Is the timeless now. Because in the timeless, everything is. It's not spread, it spreads out in time. Things spread out in time, but in the timeless, there isn't a spread. There isn't a spread out. There isn't even this, because there isn't this. Because if there is this, then there is this side and that side. There isn't even this. So we're figuratively speaking, because we can't speak of it. We're speaking of the unspeakable. But irrespective of all of that, you cannot deny your experience when you're feeling like shit, excuse my language. You've got to own it. Go to town with it. Live it up. It's happening. You stand apart, you create the impression of time. If I stand apart from it, later it will be better. So let me stand apart in the right way, then I can feel better later. There's a whole thing. Now you're in the narrative, which is imaginary. There's no narrative. In fact, there is no narrative. There isn't standing apart from anything. It's all illusion. There isn't a later.
You know, the word now is not really correct, because now is assuming that there's something before now.
Yes, it's a timeless. It's timelessness. You see, we speak of timelessness because we have the ignorance of time. You know, otherwise we won't even be speaking of timelessness. Because what would it mean? You see, we're only speaking because there is illusion. But once the illusion is gone, then that will be the end of our conversation. Because what conversation will we be having in the timelessness as all is that? And what is all? There is no all, there is no that. So you see, we're not, but now we're still talking because we have to be sincere, you know, we're still in the dream to a certain extent.
The grocket.
Huh?
We have to grocket.
Grocket, we have to grocket.
What the words you use to point to it also people get confused. Take those concepts and make
Yes, well,
so, you know, it's
yes.
hard to
Right. This is why there is in the words the living experience, you say. So I'm not speaking theoretically true.
Yeah,
So,
people speak theoretically.
not exactly, yes.
See
Right. So that's within the words or beyond the words.
The energy.
There
the
is
energy of it is in the words.
Yes. They say that you go to the guru, which is the self, and you soak into the silence, to the stillness that is coming through the words and that is behind the words, which is the presence that is, and that has no owner. Nobody owns it, and it's all in a dream language. Because when we say presence, as opposed to what? It's dream language, you see?
Yes, not about the words itself.
Yes. Okay. So if there are any questions, as well as online or anybody here.
Hi, Mighty.
Yes, hello, Jenny.
Yes, very happy to be here.
Nice to see you here too, Jenny.
Yes. Magdi, I had the other day, I was at 3 a.m. I woke up, and I wanted to share this with you. And I woke up and I really, with an emotion here, an anxiety, right? And I am saying, how, really, really, really wanting to not resist. And it was so beautiful, Magdi, so beautiful, because, I am like this awareness that there is always a resistance, that was my awareness. There's always a bit of a resistance. And that morning, I said, I don't want that anymore. I just want to know what is it to fully, fully, fully be with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so incredible, because suddenly all the thoughts were there. Like, I don't know how, I cannot explain this.
Mm-hmm.
But it was everything there, like full. And then I experienced that everything was free.
Mm-hmm.
And that was freedom. And it was just so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very, very grateful. And now when you know all you were talking today, it is like so, yes, clear the resistances, how we are wanting yes, no, and you know this me forming because, well, it doesn't even exist, but it forms in the second because it's just like, I don't know if it's a conditioning or what, but it just doesn't want that. So you know, but now I am, you know, it's just trying just to open up completely to whatever is here, you know, because it's like flowing from down to up, you know, it's all, you know, and it's very wonderful. It just, I am profoundly grateful. And you know, also I see the power of the desire and the intention. And now, you know, I have this intention of really investigating, you know, like a baby without knowing that what is this me that forms, you know, this crazy, stupid, you know, this illusion, because it's like parting from not knowing the only way the answer can come. And well, that's what I wanted to share. And no,
Okay.
yes, Magdi.
Thank you for your sharing. A very very lovely sharing. I just wanted to just say a few words, general words for everyone here. That in terms of resistance, um, it's also important not to resist the resistance. So even with the resistance, there is a resisting the resistance. So when there is resistance, just feel it. Feel the resistance, how it is in the body, how it is in the neck, how it is in the belly, how it is in the shoulders, how it is in the face. Just to a complete intimacy, complete, not to stand apart, even from resistance, to just dive into that ocean. You be that ocean. Just to let it consume you, because it is in this consumption that the emptiness of it and the freedom of it and the standing apart, the impression of standing apart, the impression that there is somebody to protect is seen through. So yes, very lovely sharing, Jenny. Thank you. I'm glad. And we don't need to really, at some point, we don't need to comprehend or try to figure out what is this me any longer, because at some point we've looked enough at this me, which is just some thought mentations and sensation that are labeled as, you know, there is a character in the thoughts. There is a me in the thought. Oh, this is happening to me. We've looked at it. At some point we've looked at it enough that it's more about living what is unfolding fully, to live rather than still trying to protect or contract or shut down, to be completely in the full recognition of what's unfolding without having to turn it into some kind of mentation. So you have to go to the body and sort of go to the tactile quality of what's happening and live that fully. It will consume you, and it'll be a very nice consumption.
Sometimes I used to, or I still could. I think part of it was maybe in learning from others to deal with your emotions, that is, look at them, see where they're coming from, and all the psychological aspects of it. But in this here too, what tends to happen, and it just reinforces me as a person, is when I am diving into the feelings, so to speak. And so that I is a person diving into the feelings.
Right.
And then it's making a project out of something.
Yes.
And so I think, so sometimes it's confusing because when it gets spoken like that, that's not always been my experience. My experience definitely can be resisted or try to mentally change it. Like I like to make happy future, you know, whether I'm making it up or not, you know. They're going to do this, I'm going to do this. But the truth of the matter is that when I allow things to be as they are, that experience, the negative feelings are not the only things happening. They're not the only, it's not the only thing happening. It's not the only experience I have.
Okay.
And so abiding in that and being conscious, so to speak, abiding in self seems to be a way to allow it to happen.
Yes.
Because I get lost into trying to do a project of some sort. You know?
It's let's say an allowing, but who is allowing? I mean, an allowing without an allower. So how do we allow without? How do we allow without allowing? Or how do we allow without an allower? Or how do we abide without an abider? Say, so it's an abiding without an abider, right? So what's happening is happening. So it's wordless, right? So we're using words. We say dive into it, or we can say allow. But what is it that's allowing? There is nothing to allow and no one to allow, and there is no one to dive or nothing to dive into. It's language. So it's more like noticing what is resisting, noticing the resistance, not what is resisting, noticing what is happening, just in noticing. Within the noticing, there is the noticing, which has no one noticing. You follow? In other words, noticing itself is a form of, doesn't belong to a noticer. When there is noticing, there is just noticing. So noticing in itself is sufficient, just noticing. Because noticing has no noticer. You don't have to notice. It's noticing happens or doesn't happen. So we're speaking about noticing now. It may happen or not happen, meaning there may be still the me thought arising, or there may be just dropping into presence of whatever is unfolding, not pretty purple, black, white, whatever the weather is like. There may be dropping into presence, which is via grace, which is not via anything of your doing or anything that you're remembering, or if there is that, or there is the me narrative going on. So it's a doing that gets done without a doer, or it's an allowing that has no allower. So let's say it's cosmos allowing. The cosmos allows or doesn't allow. So we're speaking about that, and it unfolds the way it unfolds. And all I can share is that irrespective of how it unfolds, all is well.
Yeah.
And nothing is happening to you. And nothing is ever going to happen to you. and nothing has ever happened to you. And there is no you. And there is no me. That I can share with you.
Yeah. I think the allowing or the notice, even the noticing, can say who's noticing, but both of those, even as you said, I mean, it's happening without a noticer, and allowing, it's happening without an allower, meaning an entity, you know, and so that part is more recognized, not by me, but by grace, okay? And that's there. And so that seems to be more of where my experience is going now, because I've realized that even on the mental level, when I am, there is this idea of that there's the I, me, trying to abide in myself, you know, and there's still a separation there, and so and yet that seems to be the way that it has happened, you know, and so I allow that as well, or I notice that as well.
Yeah.
But I think in the long run, the resistance always is that, especially when you say there's nobody there, there's nobody this, all that kind of stuff. Whenever that's said, okay, this I goes, so what's the point? Okay, and I think
There is no I that says that's the point. There is a thought that arises that says what's the point.
The I is the thought that I'm speaking
There
of. So
is
the I identify
there
as
is
the thought of me.
there is a thought that arises
Yeah.
that says what's the point, and there is another thought that arises that says I thought what's the point, right? There are two thoughts.
Mhm.
So there is no point. There's just a thought arising, saying what's the point. I mean, I don't even know what the point, what's the meaning, what's the point. But a thought arises, says what's the point, for whom? The next thought arises, says, well, it's for me. It's for me. Now there is a point, right? There is a point, some imaginary point for some imaginary me, right? So what's the point? There's no point. And there is no one for whom there is any point or isn't any point. There is or there isn't any point.
And yet we fall.
And yet
We follow our thoughts. I mean, we're talking about, a lot of times it's always said, you know, you're not seeking, you're not pursuing, and yet in daily life we are seeking and we are pursuing.
When we imagine that we are seeking and we are pursuing, that doesn't mean that we are seeking and we are pursuing. In other words, when we imagine Santa Claus is chasing the lost reindeer, that doesn't mean that Santa Claus is chasing the lost reindeer, because there is no Santa Claus and no reindeer, right? So the thoughts that appear to you that say, you know, you are chasing or you are seeking or whatever, these thoughts, they don't know anything about you. You see, these thoughts, they're like a dog barking in the distance. The dog bark, you can say, oh my God, this dog is saying I should go home because it's going to rain in 5 minutes, you see. But that's just your imagination, because the dog is just barking because that's what they do. They bark. So what I'm saying is all the interpretations are false. All the interpretations are false.
And so the only reality is, or there's no reality, okay? So the only reality then would be, and we can only use the words, that which is aware of all this illusory. I guess
well, if we speak about reality, then I would say that we cannot exclude anything.
Right. Yeah.
and we cannot exclude anything. But then who is excluding, or who is speaking about excluding anything? So the reality must be speaking, right? Reality must be speaking. Reality must be hearing, right? It's the one reality, and speaking about excluding or speaking about itself. Yeah, you could say that. We could say that, yes, there is one reality and includes everything, and it's speaking about including and excluding, and it's speaking and it's hearing. You could say all of that, and we could also say that all of that are just words. They're just sounds. They're sounds. But we could even say that what are sounds? They're empty, right? I mean, sound is, you have to have some kind of concept to even speak of sound. So there is concept, okay, but concept. What is the reality of the concept? The reality of the concept is the concept itself. Is the reality of the concept. So the reality of the concept is the concept and its reality, because it has to include everything. The reality must include the concepts as well. So in the end, what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Well, so what's the point?
Well, you started this conversation. You started this conversation. I would say that that we're having a dream conversation,
Yes.
and the meaning of the dream conversation, or the point of the dream conversation, is not in the conversation.
Yeah.
Is not in the dream. Yes. The point of the dream conversation is beyond the dream, beyond you, beyond your mind.
Now, when you say you, you're talking about me as an I. What are you?
Beyond you.
Okay.
Because if you know yourself,
Yes.
you will know that I am not talking about
Yes.
any other you,
Yes.
but the self.
Yes.
But I'm talking about beyond you, whatever the you imagine yourself to be.
Yes. 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 Yeah.
So
it's not really beyond,
right.
me, but it's beyond me. It's
beyond the
yourself,
mind,
whatever,
beyond the mind, beyond the mind. So you cannot find it in the dream by any dream activities, because we're speaking about what I am truly. And what I am truly, I am already. And that I don't need to know, nor can I know, because I already am that. And I know that I am that. Because when I say I, what am I referring to but I? I know that I'm referring to I. And there are no blanks to be filled. From the mind's perspective, there are blanks to be filled. So the mind is filling blanks, you say. It's filling the blanks. There are a lot of blanks. But from the mind's point of view, what's the point? Sooner or later, it's like, God, I mean, I filled 50 million blanks. How many more blanks am I going to fill, you say? And it leads to nothing. It leads to nowhere.
And yet there's this seeking or movement, or, I can only use words that move towards myself, okay? And that wholeness, that oneness, that love, that truth, that whatever, those are all words. But
well, the seeking and the movement is illusory.
Yes.
It's illusory.
Yes.
But love is not illusory, because love is not phenomenal.
Yes.
Peace is not illusory, because peace is not phenomenal.
Yes.
Freedom.
Yes.
It's not illusory. So in the illusion, we are operating via the mind and via the senses.
Yeah.
And sooner or later we realize that via the mind and via the senses, it's just we go deeper and deeper into the mind and the senses. It doesn't take you beyond the mind and the senses. So the mind and the senses are they don't take you home, but they refer to their knowingness.
Yes.
Because mind meaning thoughts, the world meaning appearances. They refer to the reality of the self. They refer to that which I am. But they don't take you there. They refer to it. They, by inference, if there is something perceived, there is something that perceives. That way they serve their purpose.
Yes.
Their purpose is not to reveal the peace. Their purpose is to infer to where the peace is and what the peace is. So the wise do not follow the senses. They are not serving the body. They're not serving the mind. They're not serving the world. They're not following the senses. The wise have learned to leave the world, body, mind to the cosmic, karmic energy that's still unfolding. Because if there is a body, there is a body mind, there is an energetic, there is a karma that is operating, that has its own, it knows what to do. It has its own principles already. It's operating and taking care of the body mind. So the wise, they turn their attention towards the self.
Yeah.
And they contemplate the self. Mm-hmm. And they leave the body mind to grace, to what is the name of that? The Prada karma. There is a Prada karma. There is a traditional Sanskrit term that refers to the karma of the body mind that is operating. But if you turn your attention into the senses and to the world and to the mind, then you are maintaining the karma, because then you are rooting, you are planting the seeds of ignorance in your life. Mm-hmm. You are maintaining the ignorance in your life, and so you are planting karmic seeds that spin the wheel of samsara. But when you turn your attention to the self and only awakening to the self and realizing the self, then whatever remaining karma that is available to take care of the body mind will take care of the body mind, and you just take care of the business at hand, which is to awaken to the self, that you are that.
I left behind my human nature to take care of itself.
Yes, I left behind my human nature to take care of the self. Yes, to take care of itself. Yes, it takes care of itself, and yes.
Isn't it? It does seem like, and of course, this is only an afterthought, but that this is when people talk about knowing or knowledge, not intellectual. This awareness is aware of itself type of thing. But that in the end, so to speak, it's that there is a recognition that there is this knowing, and one lives from that place more so than.
Yes, there is a recognition that there is just knowing, just
Yeah.
knowingness, just knowing, and that I am this knowingness.
Yeah.
That there is just knowingness, or just awareness, or just consciousness, but there's just knowingness, and I am this knowingness. But the I am knowingness, until it is established, meaning until knowingness is fully knowing of itself, yes, it's the sadhana is to live from that place, meaning as that knowingness. But knowingness is not the personal knowingness.
Right.
Knowingness is universal knowingness. Knowingness is not my knowingness. I know some things that I know. It's just all knowingness. And to live as this knowingness, yes. Yes.
I don't
Yes.
even have to say
Yes.
I am knowingness.
Yes, the I am is knowingness. Yes, I am knowingness. And knowingness is never off. It's like a switch that doesn't have an on-off. It's just always on. It's always on. Knowingness is always on. Irrespective of what it's knowing, it's always on. It's absolute.
Yes.
Well, I was just going back to what you talked earlier about noticing.
Noticing, yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, just can you say, so all there is observing. I just want to use the word observing, meaning there's no observer and there's nothing being observed except for myself.
Except for
myself.
What do you mean by myself?
All I'm really seeing in others is myself. In other words, there's no others. The others is me.
Yes, so
So what I mean is that the thing is in the observing as it is in the noticing, knowing. So that means there's no observer, really, and there's nothing being observed,
mm-hmm.
but myself. Can you say that?
Well,
As
yes,
any other is myself.
let's put it slightly different. Maybe you could say that, but I'm not. So in observing, in observation, in perception, you could say, well, there is perception. Okay, we call it perception. Whatever it is that we call it perception, right? But when we look for a perceiver, we don't find that there is any separate perceiver. We find that there is a perceiver, but the perceiver and the perception are one. So there is the perceiver and the perception and the perceived. So there is the fact of perceiving, there is the perceived, and there is the perceiver. But when you look at them, they're one. They're at zero distance of each other. So therefore we say, well, there is perceived, perceiver, perception as one, or we can say there is just perception. It's just perception, or it's just awareness, or just knowingness. And then you said it's all myself.
What is perceived?
Yeah,
is myself.
You could say that the perceiving, meaning perceiver, perceived, and perceiving, that whole, and myself are one, as long as by myself you're referring to the light of consciousness. As long as by myself you're referring to the transparency of being, to God's light. Yes, you could say that then. Okay, very lovely to be with you. Thank you. Oh, Shiva. Okay, I leave my human nature to take care of itself and remain as I am. Yes, Shiva. Very lovely. I just saw that. I leave my human nature to take care of itself and remain as I am. Yes. Okay, thank you all. Very lovely to be with you online. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay. Zoe, okay, Happy New Year. Yes, Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.